I'm Catherine Utley. I'm the Communications Officer for the Personal Ordinariate of Our Lady of Walsingham. I came here from the BBC World Service, where I've worked for many years as a journalist. I'm also a cradle Catholic, and that's the perspective from which I view the Ordinariate and all the great treasures, as I see it, that they bring to the Catholic Church. The aim of this film is to help people to understand, and that includes people who might be discerning their own future, to understand the importance of the Ordinariate's purpose and its mission. We want to show you the Ordinariate through the eyes of people who've made the journey as their faithful and often inspiring response to Christ's call to be one. And I'm very happy to say that this day has the personal blessing of Pope Francis, who's written to us to give a message of his support and his prayers for the success of the day. Monsignor Keith, you were born and brought up in the Church of England. You were formed in the Church of England. You became a priest in the Church of England, later a bishop in the Church of England. Your whole history and background is steeped in Anglicanism and the Church of England. Why did you become a Catholic?
Well, I think you've got to remember at the time that I was thinking about my ordination, about my vocation, and when I was a young Anglican priest, these were the years post-Vatican II, when the whole ecumenical movement was beginning to flourish, and Anglicans and Catholics were engaged in conversations, the Anglican Roman Catholic International Commission. These were times of incredible expectation that something was going to happen, and I hoped and prayed that that was the case, but sadly, as the years have gone by, more and more obstacles have been put in the way of union between Catholics and Anglicans, which have made me extremely sad. So I became a Catholic to fulfill my longing for unity with the Catholic Church.
Monsignor, what do you think you've received from the Catholic Church since joining it?
Well, I think I've received lots and lots of blessings. They're almost impossible to number them all. But the things that I value most are the sense of communion. I mean, what was breaking up for me as an Anglican was communion between those who call themselves Anglicans. We certainly weren't in communion with the Catholic Church. But in the Catholic Church, communion is a very, very important concept. That whatever part of the church we are, whether we're east or west, we are all in communion with each other and with the Holy Father. So that's the first thing. Another one is the fact of this clear expression of the faith. It's very clear in the Catholic Church what the teaching is, that is guarded by the magisterium, that is set forth in the catechism of the Catholic Church and in its moral teaching. So that also is a great blessing. There's also the sense of devotion, which we see in so many people, a very deep devotion to our Lord. I mean, for example, you go into Westminster Cathedral, there are always people coming in and out praying and lighting candles. The sense of devotion is incredibly important to me.
So you speak of the many blessings that you've received since joining the Catholic Church. What do you think the Ordinariate has brought to the Catholic Church?
A number of things that we are definitely bringing. There is something about the liturgy. The Vatican has already provided us with a Mass text and texts for occasional offices. These use parts of the Book of Common Prayer. The Book of Common Prayer is still the standard liturgy, and There are many beautiful prayers which have been very deep in the heart of religious culture in this country, and also the sense of the importance of preaching and catechesis, which we regard as fundamental, I think, that the ministry of the word and preaching and breaking the word is of equal importance to the breaking of the bread. And I think Pope Benedict made that very clear in some of his catechesis. I think Anglicans in their DNA, if you like, bring a sense that they care for everybody. There is a sense of being outward going to the whole community to give them the message of Christ's love. The new evangelism is not simply about those who've lapsed from the Catholic faith, but also those who have no faith at all, or have lapsed for whatever practice of religion they may or may not have had. But I have to say, having said all that, that I'm not the best person to talk about what we've brought, because really it's better for Catholics who've been Catholics for many years to see in us what gifts we have brought and recognise them. And people have told us that these things have been important.
Who have joined the Ordinariate often speak to me, yourself included, about the importance of unity as the driving force, the thing which really persuaded you to leave the Anglican Church and join the Catholic Church. But isn't the very existence of a personal ordinariate within the Catholic Church militating against unity? Why is there need for this separate structure? Why couldn't you just become Catholics?
Well, the first thing to say is that we did become Catholics. That's exactly what we did. The Catholic Church is far more diverse than the average Catholic understands. In the Catholic Church, we have the churches of the East, who have their own canon law, their own liturgy. And even in the West, there are ways of expressing Catholicism other than just being part of a diocese. For instance, there are personal prelatures. So this is just another way of being a Catholic. And the important thing that it's showing is that unity is not about uniformity. Unity is about a common faith, a common order, yet there can be diversity of expression within that order, all as part of the one Catholic Church.
So what is the contribution which the Ordinariate makes to the wider Catholic Church in practical terms?
Many of our priests are serving, as well as serving an ordinary congregation, are serving in local parishes, either as assistants, helping out, supporting, or actually in about 13 or 14 cases being the Catholic priest in charge of a diocesan parish. I am an equal member of the Bishops' Conference, so I sit in the conference with every other bishop in the Catholic Church in England and Wales as an equal member. There are also many of our clergy are involved in chaplaincies of one sort or another, either in hospitals, prisons, schools, universities, in which they are serving and ministering to Catholics, whatever their background, whatever diocese they come from. So we're totally involved in the wider life of the Catholic Church. There's no sense that we are divided from the Catholic Church. Every Catholic is in communion with every other Catholic and with the Holy Father.
Monsignor, some people who've joined the Ordinariate have made great sacrifices in order to enter the full communion of the Catholic Church via this route. Is it going to survive, do you think?
I can't see into the future. All I know is that this Apostolic Constitution was set up with the view that this would be a permanent part of the Catholic Church. And I think it's in God's hands whether that happens. If it is a vehicle for evangelism, if it is a vehicle to bring in Anglican patrimony into the universal church, then I think it will survive. But it really is up to the work of the Spirit within us. Pope Benedict spoke about the Ordinariate being a prophetic gesture. He was saying something that was profoundly ecumenical about the Ordinariate, that it showed to the rest of the Christians outside the possibility that you can actually have a church which is united, but actually has this variety of expressions of the faith, which all contribute to the whole and enrich the whole. And it also shows to people outside the Catholic Church what may be possible in the future.
Monsignor Keith, you have called this day Called to be One, echoing our Lord's words. What are your hopes for the day?
Well, I think we've set up this day because we are conscious that there are some people who don't know very much about the Ordinariate, both within the Catholic Church and outside it. There are also people who have a lot of misunderstandings about the Ordinariate, thinking that it's just a sort of aside from the main life of the Catholic Church, which is not true. So what we're trying to do is to help people understand better what the Ordinariate is about. And there are some people who may well be thinking about their future. We're not proselytising, we're not going out to try and grab people, but we're saying, here we are, you might want to know more about us.
What would you say is the particular contribution that the laity have to make to this great project?
Well, the laity is the church. Cardinal Newman has said the church would look very silly without the laity, so they're very essential. But what's important to say is that the Apostolic Constitution was very clear. It was about groups of priests and laity entering the church. And there is something about Anglican patrimony, about the role of the laity, that I think we can give to the wider Catholic Church. Having a pastoral council, both locally and nationally, is not an option for us. We have to have one. In the dioceses in England and Wales, it's not obligatory. But part of the way of bringing the involvement of the laity in the decision-making of the Ordinariate is this setting up of pastoral councils, and I think that's extremely important. You're right, our laity have made big sacrifices because their roots in parishes go back many, many years. Perhaps their families are buried in local churchyards, perhaps they've worshipped in that church for 30, 40 years maybe. And to move out and to worship somewhere which is very different, with a very different ethos, has been quite a sacrifice. But they've done it because it is a pursuit of truth and unity.
Monsignor, you've had a long journey yourself, and presumably you've had dark days along the way. What would you say to people who are now struggling with trying to discern their future, who may feel drawn to the Catholic Church through the Ordinariate, but are not yet ready to make that decision?
Well, I'd firstly say that nobody should become a Catholic just to escape somewhere else. You have to become a Catholic because you feel God's calling you to be a Catholic. And you have to be a Catholic because you believe that the Church of Jesus Christ subsists in the Catholic Church. Even those elements of it are found elsewhere in other ecclesial communities. The Church of Jesus Christ subsists in the Catholic Church. Secondly, you've got to believe that the Petrine office, the office of the Bishop of Rome within the Catholic Church, is essential. It is a God-given ministry in order to protect the Church's teaching and life. And thirdly, I think you have to believe the Catechism. You can't pick and choose about what you believe in the Catholic Church. You have to believe the Catholic faith. Now that is very important, I think, for those who are discerning their future in the Church of England, and there are many who are confused and not sure where to go, who have tried to practice the Catholic faith, particularly within the Church of England, and finding that very difficult to do under present circumstances, because the orders of the Catholic Church are no longer represented in any sense in the Church of England as far as I can see. The doctrine of the Church of England is not clear on any matter at all, whether it's about the sacraments or even about the creed. And on moral issues, the Church of England seems to be more and more divided, not least on assisted dying and abortion. You have to enter the Catholic Church knowing that those things are important and they're in fact essential. In the end, I think you just have to trust in the Lord, and it does require you to take a leap of faith. But on the assurance that the Church is so wide, it embraces its arms to catch you, to be there for you and to strengthen you. And I think if you're struggling with some of the teachings of the Catholic Church, as you enter it, you will find it has a total coherence, that all the teaching fits in together with each other and makes perfect sense. And if you're open to that, you will see the beauty of Catholic doctrine and the beauty of the Catholic life.